The world begins as we know it, a quiet morning, sunlight spilling over the edges of a city that hums with routine life. Streets are lined with familiar faces, each absorbed in their own small rituals. The barista perfecting a cappuccino, a child racing a bicycle down a cracked sidewalk, a commuter lost in thought while waiting for the train. It is a scene so ordinary that it seems impossible to imagine it fractured. Yet, beneath the surface of this normalcy, subtle tremors of instability ripple through existence. The air feels heavier, the shadows seem slightly off, and the reflections in windows catch glimpses of something unexplainable, something just beyond comprehension. These early moments establish a sense of calm, but also a quiet tension, like the pause before a storm, preparing the audience for the journey into a reality that may not be as solid as it appears. As the camera moves through streets, parks, and apartment buildings, it begins to reveal tiny distortions. A pedestrian appears twice in the same frame, a clock ticks backward for a brief moment, and the familiar skyline bends in impossible ways. The ordinary world, once so comforting, now hints at instability, and viewers are invited to question whether reality is truly uniform, or if what we perceive is only a thin veneer over deeper fractures. Through vivid imagery and immersive sound design, the distant hum of traffic, the echoing footsteps of someone unseen, the subtle distortion of familiar city sounds, the sense of unease grows, enveloping the audience in a world that is at once recognizable and strange. In parallel, the narrative introduces the human element, individuals who experience fleeting yet profound moments of disconnect. A young woman pauses mid-step as the world around her seems to flicker, noticing colors brighter than they should be and sounds oddly elongated. An elderly man feels a subtle shift in gravity as he leans on his cane, unsure if the floor beneath him is solid or somehow moving. These vignettes convey the emotional weight of reality shifting, grounding abstract concepts in human experience. The contrast between the familiar routine and these extraordinary moments creates an emotional tension designed to captivate viewers from the outset. The section deepens as it explores the psychological dimension of encountering a fractured reality. The audience is invited to consider the disorienting experience of seeing the world misalign with expectation. Objects appear out of place, people behave in ways that defy memory, and time itself seems elastic. Cinematic techniques, slow-motion sequences, jump cuts, shifting perspectives, mirror the disorientation felt by those experiencing reality split, allowing viewers to viscerally sense the fragility of perception. Every frame, every subtle shift reinforces the central question. If the world can fracture in such subtle yet undeniable ways, what does it mean for our understanding of existence? The narrative also introduces the motif of choice and awareness. Each character is presented with a decision point, conscious or unconscious, to ignore the subtle anomalies and continue as though the world is normal, or to acknowledge the fracture and step into uncertainty. These moments serve as hooks, heightening curiosity and encouraging the audience to reflect on their own perception of reality. Cinematic contrast, between the safety of ignorance and the perilous intrigue of awareness, establishes the documentary's emotional tension, framing the journey ahead as both unsettling and profoundly compelling. As the story unfolds, the viewer is led to consider that these fractures are not merely glitches or illusions, but part of a broader pattern that challenges the very fabric of reality. Visual metaphors, mirrors reflecting impossible angles, water rippling as if disturbed by unseen forces, shadows moving independently, suggest that the world we trust is only a projection of something more complex, perhaps infinite. The ordinary, the routine, becomes a stage for the extraordinary, and every familiar element takes on new meaning. The tension between what is seen and what is real forms the foundation for the sections to come, ensuring the audience remains emotionally engaged and intellectually curious. Finally, the section closes by amplifying both wonder and unease. The cityscape, once predictable, now shimmers with hints of impossible geometry. Individuals pause mid-step, sensing without fully understanding that the world is subtly, irrevocably shifting. A faint sound, a flicker of light, a momentary distortion signals that reality is not a fixed construct but a living, breathing, mutable experience. The audience is left with a lingering question: how much of what we know is truly real, and how much is a fragile construct, ready to splinter at any moment? This opening establishes the cinematic tone, emotional depth, and philosophical intrigue that will guide the journey through the fractured layers of existence, setting the stage for the exploration of reality's profound mysteries. Reality at first glance seems self-evident. We wake each day, move through familiar routines, and trust the solidity of the world around us. Buildings do not dissolve, clocks tick predictably, and the ground feels stable beneath our feet. Yet, the deeper we look, the more elusive reality becomes. Philosophers have debated its nature for millennia, scientists have probed its structure with increasingly precise instruments, and yet, every answer seems to open new questions. In this section, the narrative pulls viewers into a cinematic exploration of what reality truly is, contrasting human perception with the enigmatic structures of the universe. Visual sequences shift between familiar environments, the warmth of sunlight on a quiet street, the intimacy of a handwritten letter, and surreal, abstract depictions of quantum phenomena, where particles blink in and out of existence, and space itself seems to warp. These juxtapositions invite awe and uncertainty, illustrating that reality is simultaneously tangible and unknowable. From a philosophical perspective, reality has been considered both absolute and subjective. Classical thinkers such as Plato imagined reality as layered, with the shadows we perceive on the walls of our minds merely reflecting a truer, unseen form. The narrative brings this concept to life through cinematic imagery. Shadows flicker on walls, distorted reflections in mirrors hint at hidden truths, and everyday objects shimmer with a subtle, almost imperceptible glow, suggesting that the world we accept may be a projection. By contrasting these ancient ideas with the immediacy of human experience, the section evokes wonder, prompting viewers to question whether what they see, hear, and touch is ever fully trustworthy. Science complicates the picture further. Classical physics presents a world governed by predictable laws, a clockwork universe where cause and effect reign supreme. Yet, the advent of quantum mechanics shattered this notion, revealing a reality that is probabilistic, non-local, and deeply counterintuitive. Cinematic sequences depict electrons simultaneously existing in multiple states, light behaving as both particle and wave, and entangled particles communicating across vast distances instantaneously. These visualizations are not merely abstract. They evoke a sense of disorientation, highlighting the tension between the predictable reality we inhabit and the strange, unseen forces that underpin it. The audience is left to grapple with a profound contrast, the comforting certainty of everyday experience versus the mind-bending strangeness of the universe at its smallest scales. Perception acts as both a lens and a filter through which reality is experienced. The human brain interprets sensory input, constructing a coherent world from fragments of data. Cinematic storytelling immerses viewers in this process. A bustling city street is depicted first as a blur of motion and sound, then gradually sharpens into clarity as the brain makes sense of the chaos. Yet this constructed clarity is fragile. Optical illusions, auditory distortions, and neurological anomalies reveal that perception can be easily deceived. By juxtaposing the apparent solidity of the external world with the malleability of perception, the narrative underscores the delicate interplay between mind and environment, encouraging viewers to reconsider the reliability of their senses. Time and space, two pillars of classical reality, also reveal surprising complexity. Einstein's theories of relativity show that time is not absolute but relative, stretching and compressing depending on motion and gravity. Cinematic sequences visualize this concept. A train hurtles past, yet moments dilate, light bends around massive objects, and distant galaxies appear frozen and eternal. The narrative emphasizes that even the most fundamental dimensions of existence are not fixed, suggesting that reality is far more fluid than intuition allows. Contrast is central here. Viewers see both the familiar world of clocks and calendars and the cosmic scale where those same measures lose meaning. This oscillation between the ordinary and the extraordinary reinforces a sense of awe and intellectual curiosity. The section also explores collective versus individual reality. Social constructs, laws, traditions, cultural norms, shape a shared experience of the world, yet each person interprets these structures uniquely. Cinematic sequences depict crowded city squares, classrooms, and bustling marketplaces, highlighting the interplay between shared frameworks and individual perception. Moments of divergence, such as conflicting eyewitness accounts or varying interpretations of the same event, illustrate the subjectivity inherent in our understanding of reality. Emotional resonance emerges as viewers witness both the comfort of shared experience and the tension of personal isolation, deepening engagement with the question of what constitutes true reality. Mystery hooks abound throughout the section. The narrative poses questions without immediate answers. What if the universe is fundamentally unknowable? Could entire layers of reality exist beyond human perception, inaccessible yet influential? Cinematic devices, shifting perspectives, blurred visuals, fleeting glimpses of impossible phenomena, immerse the audience in uncertainty, evoking awe and curiosity simultaneously. By refusing to resolve these questions immediately, the section maintains high engagement, drawing viewers into a mental and emotional exploration that mirrors the documentary's overarching themes. The narrative also emphasizes the emotional dimensions of reality's nature. Awe, fear, wonder, and disorientation are interwoven into sequences of visual storytelling. A solitary figure gazes up at an endless night sky, awash with starlight and cosmic structures. A child touches a rippling pool, and the reflection fractures into infinite possibilities. A scientist peers into a microscope, discovering patterns that defy explanation. These moments evoke profound emotional responses, ensuring that the philosophical and scientific concepts are not abstract but deeply human and cinematic. Finally, the section bridges past and present, grounding abstract exploration in lived experience. Viewers move from philosophical thought experiments and scientific visualizations back to ordinary settings. A quiet bedroom, a bustling cafe, a park at dusk. Yet these environments now shimmer with a newfound ambiguity. The contrast between everyday life and cosmic uncertainty reinforces the documentary's core tension. Reality is both familiar and mysterious, solid and fractured, knowable and unknowable. By the end of the section, audiences are primed for deeper exploration, carrying both intellectual curiosity and emotional resonance forward into the subsequent sections. The human mind is a remarkable instrument, capable of constructing vast worlds from mere sensory input. Every sight, sound, touch, and smell is filtered, interpreted, and woven into a coherent narrative that we call reality. Yet, this perception is not a perfect window onto the external world. It is both a lens and a prism, shaping and sometimes distorting what we experience. In this section, the documentary dives into the paradoxical nature of perception, revealing it as both the key to understanding reality and the source of profound illusion. Cinematic sequences guide viewers through familiar spaces, a bustling cafe, a quiet forest, a sunlit bedroom, while subtle distortions begin to creep in. Colors shift imperceptibly, shadows elongate unnaturally, and reflections in mirrors show fleeting anomalies. These visual cues mirror the inner workings of the mind, creating a sense of unease while grounding the narrative in human experience. The section begins by exploring the brain's role in constructing reality. Neurons fire, sensory data streams in, and the mind synthesizes a coherent environment from fragments of information. Cinematic storytelling emphasizes this process. A blur of lights and motion gradually resolves into a recognizable city street. A cacophony of sounds coalesces into conversation, and fleeting impressions of faces and objects solidify into identifiable forms. Yet this synthesis is inherently selective. The brain prioritizes patterns, fills gaps, and sometimes invents details to maintain coherence. By contrasting moments of clarity with subtle distortions, the documentary highlights the fragile balance between perception and truth, raising the question: how much of what we experience is constructed rather than observed? Illusions and cognitive biases serve as vivid demonstrations of perception's malleability. Optical illusions, for example, reveal how the mind interprets shapes, light, and shadow according to internal rules that may not match reality. Cinematic sequences dramatize these effects. Lines that appear curved suddenly straighten, colors shift unexpectedly, and familiar objects momentarily defy expectation. These visual techniques evoke both wonder and disorientation, allowing viewers to viscerally feel the tension between what is seen and what is real. Beyond visual illusions, auditory and tactile perceptions also deceive. A distant echo may seem close, a temperature shift may be misjudged, and touch may evoke sensations that contradict reality. Through these layered examples, the narrative underscores that perception is an active, creative process, rather than a passive reflection of the world. Memory further complicates perception. The brain does not store experiences like a video camera. Instead, it reconstructs events each time they are recalled. Cinematic storytelling illustrates this with sequences of recollection. A person remembers a conversation, yet details shift subtly with each retelling, faces and words morphing like liquid in a distorted mirror. These shifts are imperceptible yet profound, demonstrating how memory shapes reality as much as immediate perception. The audience witnesses characters struggling to reconcile conflicting recollections, evoking emotional tension and emphasizing that even our own past is not immune to distortion. This dynamic raises existential questions. If memory is malleable, how can we trust our understanding of who we are and the world around us? The narrative also delves into the psychological and neurological factors that influence perception. Conditions such as synesthesia, hallucinations, and neurological disorders reveal alternate modes of experiencing reality. Cinematic sequences immerse viewers in these experiences. Colors may be heard as sounds, familiar rooms may appear warped, and ordinary objects may seem imbued with impossible properties. These portrayals evoke awe and empathy, helping the audience grasp the depth and diversity of perceptual experience. By contrasting the typical human perception with these extraordinary variations, the documentary emphasizes both the wonder and vulnerability inherent in the way we experience the world. Perception is not only personal but also social. The collective reality we inhabit is shaped by shared beliefs, language, and cultural frameworks. Cinematic vignettes depict crowded marketplaces, classrooms, and city squares, where consensus dictates the norms of appearance, behavior, and understanding. Yet even within shared frameworks, individual perception diverges. Eyewitness accounts of the same event rarely align perfectly, highlighting the subjective nature of experience. The narrative juxtaposes communal certainty with individual variation, creating tension and curiosity. If even groups cannot agree on the same reality, what does that mean for our broader understanding of the world? Attention and expectation play pivotal roles in perception. The mind filters information, highlighting what is deemed relevant and suppressing what is extraneous. Cinematic sequences dramatize this phenomenon. A person walking down a street focuses on a friend's face in the crowd while missing other striking anomalies, a hidden figure in the background unnoticed until attention shifts. These moments illustrate that perception is guided as much by expectation as by sensory input, introducing the idea that reality is negotiated continuously between mind and environment. The audience begins to sense that their own experience may be equally selective and limited, deepening engagement through introspection. The section builds tension by exploring moments when perception fails dramatically, revealing the fragility of reality itself. Surreal experiences, such as déjà vu, phantom sensations, and fleeting glimpses of impossible geometry, are brought to life through cinematic storytelling. A character walking through a familiar street notices buildings shifted subtly, colors intensified, or sounds delayed. These sequences evoke both fear and fascination, immersing the audience in the emotional impact of reality splitting at a perceptual level. By presenting perception as simultaneously powerful and unreliable, the documentary underscores the central paradox. Our understanding of the world depends entirely on a process that is fallible, subjective, and dynamic. Finally, the section emphasizes the philosophical implications of perception's malleability. If reality is filtered through a lens that is inherently imperfect, what does it mean to claim knowledge, truth, or certainty? Cinematic contrasts between the stability of daily life and the instability revealed in perceptual anomalies reinforce this tension, leaving viewers with a lingering sense of awe, curiosity, and slight unease. By grounding these abstract questions in vivid human experience, the narrative prepares the audience for the deeper exploration of historical and scientific mysteries that will follow, ensuring that engagement remains high and emotional resonance profound. Throughout history, humans have been fascinated by moments when reality seems to fracture, when the familiar world bends, and ordinary life dissolves into something unexplainable. Across civilizations, myths, religious texts, and philosophical treatises reveal a recurring awareness of anomalies that defy common understanding. In this section, the documentary immerses viewers in the rich tapestry of historical accounts, highlighting the tension between what societies considered normal and the mysterious phenomena that challenge those assumptions. Cinematic sequences recreate these moments with careful attention to atmosphere. Flickering candlelight illuminates a shadowy monastery, ancient desert sands shimmer under a strange celestial alignment, and bustling medieval marketplaces vibrate with hints of unseen forces. These vivid scenes evoke both wonder and unease, demonstrating that the human experience of reality as mutable is not new but deeply embedded in our collective consciousness. The narrative begins with ancient civilizations. Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans recorded accounts of unusual celestial events, prophetic visions, and strange occurrences that hinted at worlds beyond ordinary perception. Through cinematic storytelling, these accounts are brought to life. Priests gaze skyward as unexplained lights traverse the heavens. Pharaohs witness fleeting apparitions during sacred rituals. Mayan astronomers calculate cycles of planets that seem to intersect with human fate. By contrasting the structured order of ancient societies with these mysterious anomalies, the documentary emphasizes that the human mind has always grappled with the tension between observable reality and inexplicable phenomena. Viewers are invited to consider, what did these early observers truly see, and how did it shape their understanding of the cosmos? Philosophical inquiry further illuminates the historical fascination with fractured reality. Plato's allegory of the cave depicts humans perceiving only shadows of a truer reality, a concept that continues to resonate in the modern understanding of perception. Cinematic sequences visualize this allegory in compelling ways. Figures confined to shadowy tunnels reach toward shapes they cannot fully comprehend, the faint glow of truth flickering at the periphery of awareness. Similarly, Eastern philosophies such as Buddhism and Taoism explore the impermanence and illusionary nature of the material world. Through contrasting imagery, the stillness of a meditating monk with the chaotic swirl of urban life, the narrative illustrates how these philosophical frameworks address the fragility and multiplicity of reality. This interplay of thought and image immerses viewers in a cross-cultural meditation on perception, awakening curiosity and emotional engagement. Historical accounts of mystical experiences and anomalies continue to build the narrative tension. Visionaries, shamans, and mystics have described encounters with parallel worlds, time slips, and beings beyond comprehension. Cinematic sequences dramatize these experiences. A shaman's trance reveals landscapes that ripple and fold. A prophet hears voices echoing across impossible distances. A pilgrim perceives doors opening to realms unseen. These reconstructions are intentionally vivid, blurring the line between documented history and experiential narrative, emphasizing that reality has often been perceived as fluid rather than fixed. By alternating between the rational world and the mystical, the documentary employs contrast framing to sustain mystery and wonder, keeping the audience emotionally invested. The section also examines the scientific and intellectual response to these anomalies throughout history. Early astronomers, mathematicians, and natural philosophers encountered phenomena they could not explain, from comets and eclipses to magnetic forces and optical illusions. Cinematic visuals juxtapose methodical observation, telescope lenses adjusting, meticulous drawings in candlelight, with the chaotic unpredictability of nature. These moments convey the tension between the desire for certainty and the inescapable presence of mystery. The narrative emphasizes that even in societies grounded in logic and empirical inquiry, the boundaries of reality have always been tested by events that defy explanation, leaving humanity both humbled and captivated. Cultural interpretations of reality's fragility further deepen the narrative. Folklore is replete with stories of worlds intersecting, time looping, and individuals encountering dimensions beyond their understanding. Cinematic storytelling brings these tales to life. A traveler steps into a forest where time seems to stretch and compress. Villagers recount visions of shadowy figures who appear and vanish without explanation. Ceremonial dances evoke unseen cosmic patterns. By contrasting ordinary village life with these extraordinary narratives, the documentary demonstrates that across cultures, people have long recognized that reality may be far more layered and mutable than it appears. This emphasis on contrast, between the familiar and the uncanny, heightens suspense and encourages viewers to question the limits of their own perception. The narrative also explores documented historical fractures, moments where multiple witnesses reported events that contradicted ordinary expectations. Eyewitness accounts of natural phenomena, strange lights, or inexplicable human behaviors are recreated with cinematic flair, blending historical fidelity with immersive visuals. Viewers see crowds reacting with awe, fear, and confusion, bridging emotional connection between past and present. By grounding mysterious events in human experience, the documentary highlights the universality of the phenomenon. Regardless of era or culture, reality has occasionally split, leaving those who witness it changed and uncertain. Finally, the section emphasizes continuity and resonance. The mysteries of the past inform the present. By tracing the evolution of thought, from ancient myth to philosophical reasoning, from mystical experience to empirical observation, the narrative creates a sense of historical depth. Cinematic contrasts between dimly lit archives, vibrant reenactments, and modern scientific laboratories reinforce the enduring tension between understanding and wonder. As the audience moves through these layered perspectives, they are prepared to confront the next stage of the documentary, the intersection of science and mystery in the modern world. By the end of this section, viewers are deeply engaged, emotionally and intellectually, with the realization that humanity's fascination with fractured reality is timeless, and that the journey into the unknown is both urgent and irresistible. Science, in its pursuit of certainty and order, has long sought to explain the mysteries that have fascinated humans for millennia. Yet, as the documentary now reveals, the more we uncover, the more the universe seems to resist simple understanding. In this section, Viewers are drawn into the tension between empirical knowledge and the inexplicable phenomena that continue to challenge it. Cinematic sequences move seamlessly between high-tech laboratories, where researchers manipulate delicate instruments with meticulous precision, and awe-inspiring natural phenomena. Storms swirling across distant planets, auroras dancing over frozen landscapes, and galaxies colliding in slow-motion cosmic ballet. This juxtaposition emphasizes the contrast framing at the heart of the narrative. Science seeks clarity, but the universe offers complexity, wonder, and at times outright mystery. The section begins by exploring the limits of scientific observation. Instruments extend human perception into realms previously unreachable. Telescopes peer into the farthest reaches of the cosmos. Electron microscopes reveal the intricacies of subatomic structures, and advanced neuroimaging captures the electrical symphony of the brain. Cinematic sequences dramatize this exploration. A glowing particle beam arcs through a darkened laboratory, a telescope lens tracks a distant quasar as starlight bends in impossible patterns, and a scientist's hands hover over data streaming in from quantum experiments. Yet even with these advances, anomalies persist. Unexpected results, unexplainable phenomena, and contradictory data punctuate the pursuit of understanding, reminding viewers that reality is never fully contained by human knowledge. Quantum physics becomes a central motif in this exploration. Particles behaving as both waves and discrete points, entanglement connecting entities across unimaginable distances, and the probabilistic nature of measurement all hint at a universe far stranger than classical intuition suggests. Cinematic visuals bring these concepts to life. Electrons flicker in multiple states, light bends and splits in impossible directions, and vast networks of entangled particles pulse with hidden connections. These sequences immerse the audience in the tension between empirical precision and conceptual mystery. The narrative emphasizes that the very foundation of reality, once thought stable and predictable, is fluid and often counterintuitive. Neuroscience adds another layer to the story, revealing that even our perception of objective phenomena is filtered through a malleable lens. Cinematic storytelling contrasts laboratory experiments with human experience. Participants perceive stimuli differently, memories reconstruct events inconsistently, and consciousness itself seems to flicker at the edges of understanding. Visual sequences dramatize this dissonance. A participant reaches toward a light that appears to shimmer and split, colors stretch and fold in impossible ways, and neural imaging glows with patterns that defy simple interpretation. The audience is left to confront a central tension. The tools we use to measure reality are inseparable from the minds interpreting them, raising questions about objectivity, truth, and the limits of scientific certainty. The section also explores the intersection of science and unexplained phenomena. Reports of strange lights in the sky, anomalies in time perception, and collective experiences of altered reality are examined alongside rigorous investigation. Cinematic sequences depict scientists analyzing data, skeptics debating interpretations, and eyewitnesses recounting experiences with intensity and emotion. The narrative emphasizes contrast. On one side, methodical observation and rational explanation. On the other, phenomena that resist categorization, threatening to expand the boundaries of what we consider possible. This tension evokes both intellectual curiosity and emotional engagement, keeping viewers captivated by the uncertainty at the heart of scientific inquiry. Technological advances offer further avenues for exploring mystery. High-speed cameras, particle accelerators, and space probes reveal layers of reality previously invisible, yet simultaneously uncover anomalies that challenge existing models. Cinematic visuals dramatize these discoveries. Particles accelerate to near light speed, detectors capture fleeting bursts of energy, and space telescopes reveal objects that seem to defy conventional physics. Each revelation emphasizes the contrast between human ingenuity and the universe's inherent complexity, reinforcing the theme that reality, while partially comprehensible, is ultimately vast and enigmatic. The narrative also highlights the philosophical implications of modern science. As empirical knowledge grows, so too does awareness of its limitations. Scientists grapple with uncertainty, revising models, and confronting phenomena that defy expectation. Cinematic sequences depict tense deliberations, moments of silent contemplation, and bursts of sudden insight, immersing viewers in the emotional as well as intellectual journey of discovery. By portraying both the triumphs and frustrations of scientific pursuit, the documentary underscores the interplay between human curiosity, creativity, and the persistent mystery of existence. Finally, the section emphasizes the emotional resonance of confronting the unknown. Awe, fear, wonder, and humility are evoked through cinematic contrast. The meticulous control of laboratory environments juxtaposed with the chaotic grandeur of natural and cosmic phenomena, human cognition set against the incomprehensible vastness of the universe. Viewers are encouraged to feel both the satisfaction of discovery and the exhilaration of encountering questions without answers. By the end of this section, the audience is primed for deeper exploration of the boundaries between perception, consciousness, and the fundamental nature of reality, carrying forward both intellectual engagement and emotional tension. Reality, as perceived through the human mind, seems fixed, tangible, and reliable. Yet, at the microscopic and quantum levels, the universe behaves in ways that defy intuition, revealing a world that is far more fluid and perplexing than our senses suggest. In this section, the documentary immerses viewers in the astonishing realm of quantum mechanics, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, waves collapse into points only when observed, and entangled entities communicate across distances instantaneously. Cinematic sequences visualize these concepts through mesmerizing imagery. Electrons flicker in and out of existence, light bends and fractures unpredictably, and atomic structures shimmer as if alive. This vivid portrayal establishes a sense of awe and wonder while introducing the central tension. The classical, predictable world we inhabit is only one layer atop an intricate and often counterintuitive quantum reality. The section begins by exploring the double-slit experiment, one of quantum physics' most compelling illustrations of reality's strange behavior. A single particle, when unobserved, creates an interference pattern suggesting it traverses multiple paths at once. When observed, it behaves as a single, discrete entity. Cinematic sequences dramatize this paradox. Particles appear to dance between possibilities, forming ghostly patterns that vanish and reappear depending on the viewer's focus. The visual contrast between certainty and ambiguity immerses the audience in the profound mystery of observation, prompting the question: does reality exist independently of our perception, or is it intrinsically linked to consciousness itself? Superposition extends this paradox to the entire quantum system. Particles, atoms, and even molecules can exist in multiple states simultaneously, a concept that challenges the classical notion of deterministic reality. Through cinematic storytelling, viewers are guided into imaginative visualizations. A single particle simultaneously occupying multiple positions, a photon traveling through space as a wave yet impacting as a point, and atoms vibrating in myriad configurations at once. These sequences evoke both wonder and disorientation, allowing the audience to feel the instability inherent in the fundamental building blocks of existence. Contrast framing between the visible, stable macroscopic world and the invisible, fluctuating quantum realm underscores the fragility of perception and challenges assumptions of certainty. Entanglement further complicates our understanding. When particles become entangled, their states are instantaneously correlated, regardless of the distance separating them. Cinematic sequences depict twin particles across vast cosmic expanses, their behaviors synchronized in ways that defy classical causality. This instantaneous connection challenges notions of space, distance, and independence, creating both intellectual fascination and emotional tension. Viewers are invited to imagine a universe where the separation between entities is not as absolute as it seems, where unseen threads connect the very fabric of reality in ways imperceptible to the naked eye. Quantum uncertainty introduces additional layers of complexity. Heisenberg's principle reveals that certain properties, such as a particle's position and momentum, cannot be measured simultaneously with absolute precision. Cinematic storytelling visualizes this uncertainty through shifting landscapes, vibrating objects, and unstable light patterns, emphasizing the inherent unpredictability embedded in the universe. The contrast between humans' desire for certainty and nature's fundamental indeterminacy heightens suspense and awe, reinforcing the narrative's central theme. Reality at its deepest levels is fluid, probabilistic, and mysterious. The section also explores the implications of quantum mechanics for the macroscopic world and human experience. Schrödinger's thought experiment, the famous cat both alive and dead until observed, serves as a metaphor for uncertainty and potentiality. Cinematic sequences dramatize this duality. A room bathed in shadows reveals glimpses of both outcomes, light and dark intertwining, emphasizing the coexistence of multiple possibilities. These visual metaphors connect abstract scientific principles to tangible emotional experience, allowing the audience to engage with the profound philosophical questions raised by quantum theory. Parallel universes emerge naturally from quantum concepts. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every possible outcome of a quantum event exists in its own branch of reality. Cinematic sequences depict overlapping versions of familiar spaces. A single street unfolds into multiple versions, each subtly different, inhabitants making divergent choices and countless possibilities playing out simultaneously. This exploration of alternate realities heightens both intellectual curiosity and emotional engagement, inviting viewers to contemplate the infinite complexity underlying seemingly ordinary life. The narrative emphasizes the philosophical tension inherent in these discoveries. Classical determinism, where every effect has a clear cause, is contrasted with quantum indeterminacy, where outcomes are probabilistic and observation itself plays a role in shaping reality. Cinematic storytelling shifts between structured, orderly environments and surreal, fluctuating quantum landscapes, evoking both clarity and disorientation. The audience is encouraged to grapple with the limits of human understanding, experiencing awe, uncertainty, and fascination simultaneously. Finally, the section integrates these scientific insights with human experience. Visual sequences connect quantum phenomena to everyday life. The shimmer of sunlight on water, the flutter of a bird's wings, or the flicker of a candle flame, all subtly echoing the unpredictable patterns of the quantum world. The narrative emphasizes that reality, while appearing stable, is underpinned by a vast, intricate web of probability and potentiality. Through cinematic contrast, mystery, and immersive imagery, viewers are left with a profound sense of wonder and curiosity, ready to explore the personal and philosophical implications of these revelations in the sections that follow. Every choice we make, every path we follow, is but one thread in the vast tapestry of existence. Yet, what if those threads diverged, creating infinite variations of reality, each as real as the one we inhabit? In this section, the documentary delves into the concept of parallel lives and alternate realities, exploring the profound possibilities that emerge when existence is not singular but manifold. Cinematic storytelling brings this idea to life through immersive visuals, streets that fold into multiple versions of themselves, rooms that shimmer with alternate outcomes, and faces that reflect lives lived differently. These sequences evoke both wonder and unease, challenging viewers to reconsider the boundaries of identity, choice, and the nature of reality itself. The section opens by grounding the concept in human experience. Every decision, from the mundane to the momentous, has the potential to create divergence. Cinematic sequences illustrate these forks in the road. A person hesitates at a street corner, and the narrative splits. One version continues along the familiar path, while another ventures into an unforeseen alley, each outcome leading to subtle yet profound differences. By visualizing the consequences of choice, the documentary emphasizes both the emotional weight and the philosophical significance of human agency. Viewers are invited to reflect on their own lives. How many versions of themselves exist in the tapestry of possibility, and what might have been had different choices been made? Science provides a conceptual framework for these ideas. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every possible outcome of every event exists in a branching universe. Cinematic sequences portray this visually. Cityscapes multiply into overlapping realities, ordinary rooms unfold into countless variations, and a single event, dropping a cup, hearing a word, making a decision, splits into parallel sequences. The audience experiences a dizzying sense of scale and possibility, simultaneously grounded in familiar environments and unmoored by the infinite potential that surrounds them. This contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary heightens both emotional engagement and intellectual curiosity. Personal identity becomes a central theme. What does it mean to exist across multiple realities? Cinematic storytelling follows characters as they encounter alternate versions of themselves, each living divergent lives shaped by different choices. Faces look the same, yet emotions, experiences, and knowledge differ. One version may exude confidence, another anxiety. One may achieve recognition, another obscurity. These contrasts evoke empathy and wonder, while prompting viewers to confront profound questions. Is the self singular or a fluid constellation of possibilities? Are our choices defining, or merely one manifestation among countless alternatives? Memory and perception intertwine with these alternate realities. In moments of déjà vu, fleeting intuition, or uncanny familiarity, the mind may brush against the awareness of parallel existence. Cinematic sequences dramatize these sensations. A character glimpses a reflection that does not mirror their actions, hears words repeated in an impossible sequence, or notices objects subtly altered in ways they cannot explain. These experiences suggest that alternate realities are not merely theoretical but may brush against consciousness itself. By blending the surreal with the familiar, the documentary evokes awe, suspense, and existential curiosity, keeping viewers emotionally invested. Emotional stakes deepen as the narrative explores the consequences of parallel lives. Joy, regret, love, and loss may exist differently across realities, yet they retain their significance. Cinematic storytelling follows parallel versions of characters as they navigate triumph and failure, intimacy and isolation, in subtly or dramatically altered circumstances. The contrasts between these experiences underscore the universality of human emotion while highlighting the fragility and variability of life. Viewers are invited to consider the weight of their choices and the infinite possibilities that ripple outward from even the smallest decisions. The section also examines the interplay between determinism and randomness. Some outcomes appear inevitable, guided by causality and circumstance. Others seem contingent, emerging only through chance or quantum fluctuation. Cinematic sequences visualize this interplay. A drop of water splits into multiple streams, a gust of wind redirects a leaf into countless potential paths, and a single word uttered differently changes the course of interactions in unpredictable ways. This layering of possibility reinforces the tension between order and chaos, certainty and uncertainty, familiar and extraordinary. Finally, the narrative brings these ideas into the philosophical and emotional realm. The notion of parallel lives challenges assumptions about uniqueness, purpose, and destiny. Cinematic visuals create moments of both reflection and wonder. A character gazes at their own reflection in a shattered mirror, each fragment revealing a different version of themselves. A city skyline unfolds into countless iterations, each humming with life and potential. Through these contrasts, the audience experiences a profound sense of scale, complexity, and emotional resonance. By the end of the section, viewers are primed to explore the neurological, perceptual, and existential implications of these parallel realities, carrying forward a heightened sense of curiosity, awe, and engagement with the documentary's central mysteries. The human brain is a universe in itself, an intricate network of neurons firing in patterns that create perception, thought, emotion, and consciousness. It is the instrument through which reality is filtered, interpreted, and ultimately experienced. Yet, the very organ that allows us to navigate the world is also capable of distorting it, revealing that reality is as much a product of the mind as it is of the external universe. In this section, the documentary immerses viewers in the astonishing complexity of the brain, exploring how it constructs, manipulates, and sometimes fractures the reality we take for granted. Cinematic sequences move between the glowing intricacies of neural networks, synapses sparking in rapid-fire patterns, and human experiences of perception, memory, and consciousness, creating a visceral connection between science and lived experience. The tension between what the brain presents as real and what might lie beneath or beyond it forms the emotional and intellectual core of this exploration. The section opens by examining perception as a neurological process. Every sensation, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, is filtered through layers of neural computation. Cinematic sequences dramatize this process. A city street dissolves into streams of light and sound, data interpreted and reconstructed into coherent forms by the brain. The narrative emphasizes that the brain does not passively record reality but actively constructs it, prioritizing some signals, ignoring others, and sometimes filling gaps with inferred information. Viewers are confronted with the realization that what feels immediate and objective is, in fact, a highly processed, interpretive creation. This awareness evokes awe, curiosity, and a subtle unease, framing perception as both miracle and illusion. Neurological anomalies and altered states of consciousness highlight perception's fragility. Hallucinations, synesthesia, and neurological disorders such as visual agnosia demonstrate that the brain can misinterpret sensory input in dramatic ways. Cinematic sequences immerse the audience in these experiences. Colors may produce sounds, familiar objects morph into strange shapes, and faces become unrecognizable. These sequences are not merely illustrative. They are designed to evoke empathy and emotional resonance, allowing viewers to feel the disorientation, fear, and wonder that accompany the brain's deviations from normative processing. By contrasting ordinary perception with these extraordinary experiences, the documentary underscores the thin line between reality and illusion. Memory plays a crucial role in shaping experience. The brain does not store memories as fixed recordings but reconstructs them each time they are recalled. Cinematic storytelling illustrates this reconstruction. A character remembers a conversation and subtle details shift, phrases change, emotions intensify or soften, objects appear or disappear. Visual metaphors such as photographs fading into sketches, then reforming into slightly altered images, dramatize this process, emphasizing that even the past is subject to reinterpretation. This revelation evokes existential tension, prompting viewers to question how much of what they remember is accurate and how much is a narrative shaped by perception, emotion, and time. Attention and focus are central to how the brain interprets reality. The mind filters immense streams of sensory data, highlighting what is deemed relevant and suppressing what is extraneous. Cinematic sequences illustrate this. A busy city street is perceived in sharp clarity by a focused individual, while peripheral anomalies, subtle distortions, fleeting shadows, sounds, go unnoticed. The contrast between conscious awareness and unconscious filtering demonstrates the brain's role in shaping the world we experience, and the narrative emphasizes that reality is inseparable from the act of perception itself. This interplay between selective attention and full sensory immersion evokes tension and curiosity, encouraging viewers to consider how much of their own reality is similarly constructed. The section also explores the neural basis of consciousness and its relationship to reality. Neuroscientists have long sought to understand how subjective experience arises from physical processes. Cinematic sequences visualize this mystery. Electrical impulses ripple across neural networks, creating patterns of light and motion that mirror the flow of thought and awareness. These abstract yet tangible depictions convey both the beauty and the enigma of consciousness, highlighting the profound question at the heart of the documentary: is reality something external that the brain perceives, or is it fundamentally inseparable from the mind itself? The tension between materialist explanation and experiential mystery deepens engagement, as viewers are invited to confront their own awareness and existence. Disorders of perception further illuminate the brain's influence on reality. Conditions such as phantom limb syndrome, temporal lobe epilepsy, and dissociative episodes show that even when external reality remains unchanged, internal experience can diverge dramatically. Cinematic storytelling brings these experiences to life. A hand moves in space yet is perceived as absent, colors shift in impossible ways, and moments of temporal dislocation evoke profound disorientation. These portrayals are designed to elicit both empathy and awe, emphasizing the vulnerability and adaptability of the human mind. The contrast between ordinary experience and these altered states reinforces the central theme that perception is an active, dynamic construction rather than a passive reflection. Finally, the section synthesizes these insights to emphasize the emotional and philosophical implications. The brain, in creating reality, is both a tool for survival and a source of potential deception. Cinematic sequences juxtapose the ordinary world: a child playing, a couple conversing, a sunrise over a city, with visualizations of the neural processes that shape and sometimes distort these experiences. The audience is left with a profound sense of wonder at the mind's power, tempered by awareness of its limitations and vulnerabilities. By the end of this section, viewers understand that reality is inseparable from the brain's interpretation, a construct that is simultaneously astonishing, fragile, and deeply personal, setting the stage for the exploration of memory, time, and the further unraveling of the world as we perceive it. Time, the invisible river that carries existence forward, has long been considered a fixed and linear dimension. Clocks tick, calendars turn, and we live our lives assuming that past, present, and future are distinct and unyielding. Yet, both science and human experience suggest that time may be far more flexible, fluid, and enigmatic than everyday perception allows. In this section, the documentary plunges into the mysteries of time, exploring its subjective, psychological, and physical dimensions. Cinematic sequences move between breathtaking cosmic vistas, galaxies swirling across eons, black holes warping space, and supernovae exploding in slow-motion brilliance, and intimate human experiences, such as a child watching a droplet of water fall in suspended fascination. This contrast between vast scales and personal perception illuminates the paradoxes of time, drawing viewers into awe, contemplation, and subtle unease. The section opens by examining time as a human construct. While biological rhythms and planetary cycles create patterns, the measurement of minutes and hours is a cultural invention, designed to bring order to existence. Cinematic sequences illustrate this. Pendulum clocks swing in infinite corridors, hourglasses spill sand endlessly, and streets are bathed in the golden light of passing hours. Yet, despite this imposed order, subjective experience reveals that time is elastic. Moments of intense focus seem to stretch, while periods of monotony compress into perceived brevity. By juxtaposing external measurement with internal experience, the documentary evokes the tension between objective chronology and personal perception, challenging viewers to reconsider the reliability of time as they know it. Physics deepens this exploration. Einstein's theory of relativity demonstrates that time is not absolute but relative, affected by gravity and motion. Cinematic sequences visualize this concept. A traveler moving near the speed of light experiences minutes while years pass on Earth. Light curves around massive celestial bodies, stretching temporal perception. Twin astronauts age differently depending on velocity and location in space. These sequences create a visceral sense of the strangeness of time, blending scientific insight with emotional resonance. The contrast between the familiar world of clocks and the cosmic reality of relativity evokes awe and intellectual curiosity, leaving viewers contemplating the fragility and subjectivity of temporal experience. Time's interaction with memory adds another layer of complexity. The human mind does not record events like a camera. Instead, it reconstructs them, often distorting, amplifying, or compressing experiences. Cinematic sequences illustrate this reconstruction. A character recalls a childhood event, and the scene shifts in color, detail, and emotion with each recollection, blending reality and interpretation. Moments of déjà vu, flashbacks, and intuitive foreknowledge suggest that memory and time are deeply entwined, that past and present can intermingle in ways that challenge linear perception. These portrayals evoke both wonder and unease, immersing the audience in the psychological dimensions of temporal experience. The section also explores phenomena that blur conventional boundaries of time. Near-death experiences, precognition, and time perception anomalies suggest that the human mind can sometimes perceive or interpret time in ways that defy linear causality. Cinematic storytelling dramatizes these occurrences. A fleeting vision of the future unfolds, past and present collide in overlapping imagery, and moments seem suspended in uncanny stasis. The narrative emphasizes the emotional impact of these experiences, drawing viewers into a liminal space where time is both known and unknowable. Contrast framing, between ordinary flow and extraordinary distortion, heightens tension and deepens engagement. Cosmology expands the scope further. The universe itself may operate under principles where time is relative, cyclic, or multidimensional. Cinematic sequences visualize black holes, wormholes, and collapsing stars as instruments of temporal distortion, folding past, present, and future into incomprehensible patterns. Observers witness light bending, moments stretching, and cosmic events replaying in slow-motion sequences that defy ordinary intuition. These visualizations evoke awe and intellectual fascination, emphasizing the universe's vast temporal scales and the fragility of human perception when confronted with them. Time's emotional dimension is equally profound. The passage of moments carries hope, fear, longing, and urgency. Cinematic sequences interweave human narratives with temporal themes. A mother watching a child grow, lovers separated by circumstance, an artist racing against a deadline. These sequences illustrate that while physics and biology shape time, emotion colors it, stretching some moments into eternity and collapsing others into fleeting insignificance. By juxtaposing the cosmic and the intimate, the documentary emphasizes that time is both universal and deeply personal, simultaneously objective and subjective. Finally, the section bridges science, psychology, and philosophy. It examines the paradoxes and mysteries of temporal experience, highlighting that the flow of time is neither uniform nor fully knowable. Cinematic sequences weave together fast-motion cityscapes, slow-motion natural phenomena, and reflective human moments, creating a sense of rhythm and tension. The audience is left with a profound sense of awe at time's complexity and its impact on existence. By the end of this section, viewers are primed to explore the deeper consequences of a fluid and fractured reality on consciousness, memory, and the self, carrying forward both intellectual curiosity and emotional engagement. Consciousness, the enigmatic essence that allows us to experience, reflect, and exist, remains one of the greatest mysteries of reality. It is through consciousness that the universe becomes known to itself, yet its nature, origin, and limits remain profoundly elusive. In this section, the documentary delves deeply into the intricate landscape of consciousness, exploring how it shapes perception, constructs reality, and opens the door to experiences that defy conventional understanding. Cinematic sequences interweave neural imagery with intimate human experiences. A solitary figure meditates in a sun-dappled forest, neurons fire and ripple like galaxies in the brain, and fleeting moments of insight or intuition illuminate faces with sudden recognition. This interplay between the inner and outer worlds evokes awe, wonder, and an acute sense of the fragility and depth of conscious experience. The section opens by examining the neurological foundations of consciousness. The brain, an intricate network of approximately 86 billion neurons, orchestrates perception, thought, emotion, and memory through vast patterns of electrical and chemical activity. Cinematic sequences visualize this process in dramatic fashion. Streams of light ripple across neural networks, synapses spark in rapid succession, and abstract patterns pulse in harmony with thought and emotion. The narrative emphasizes that consciousness is both an emergent property of biological processes and a gateway to subjective experience, allowing viewers to appreciate the delicate balance between physiology and awareness. Contrast framing between tangible, observable neural activity and the intangible, ineffable quality of conscious experience heightens emotional and intellectual engagement. Perception and attention are central to understanding consciousness. The brain selects, filters, and integrates sensory data, constructing a coherent model of reality from fragments of information. Cinematic storytelling immerses viewers in this process. A city street dissolves into streams of motion and light, then coalesces into recognizable forms. Ambient noise transforms into identifiable voices and footsteps. Yet the process is inherently selective and interpretive. The documentary emphasizes that what we perceive is not objective reality but a construction shaped by neural activity, memory, expectation, and focus. Viewers are drawn into an experiential understanding of how consciousness mediates the interface between mind and world. Altered states of consciousness reveal the fluidity and potential expansiveness of awareness. Dreams, meditation, trance, psychedelics, and near-death experiences offer glimpses into realities that diverge from waking perception. Cinematic sequences bring these phenomena to life. Dreamscapes unfold with surreal, impossible geometry, colors shimmer and shift in patterns that defy conventional logic. Moments of insight appear as luminous bursts of understanding. These sequences evoke both awe and curiosity, demonstrating that consciousness is not static but dynamic, capable of traversing realms that challenge ordinary notions of space, time, and identity. The contrast between ordinary waking experience and these altered states intensifies emotional engagement, leaving viewers with a lingering sense of wonder and possibility. The narrative explores the philosophical dimensions of consciousness. Questions of selfhood, identity, and subjective reality arise naturally from an awareness that perception is constructed and mutable. Cinematic storytelling visualizes these inquiries. Reflections in water fracture into multiple selves, a single figure encounters subtle variations of themselves in parallel scenarios, and moments of introspection are punctuated by abstract representations of thought. These sequences engage viewers emotionally while prompting deep reflection. Who are we if consciousness is both singular and malleable? What does it mean to be aware within a universe that itself may be fluid, probabilistic, or multileveled? The juxtaposition of concrete human experience with abstract conceptual exploration maintains engagement while cultivating intellectual tension. Neuroscience also provides insights into the limitations and potentials of consciousness. Research on neuroplasticity, attention, and the interplay between brain regions reveals both the malleability and constraints of human awareness. Cinematic sequences depict synapses rewiring, networks activating in complex patterns, and abstract visualizations of thought processes interacting with sensory input. These sequences bridge the gap between scientific explanation and experiential understanding, showing that consciousness is neither fully deterministic nor entirely mysterious, but a dynamic interplay of biology, environment, and experience. The section examines consciousness as a bridge to understanding reality itself. If perception constructs experience, then consciousness is the lens through which the universe manifests in subjective terms. Cinematic storytelling visualizes this. Vast cosmic vistas mirrored in neural networks, reflections of stars and galaxies in the eyes of human observers, and fleeting moments of intuitive insight that connect the personal with the universal. By highlighting these intersections, the documentary evokes awe and wonder while raising fundamental questions. To what extent does reality exist independently of awareness, and how much is inseparable from the observer? Finally, the narrative addresses the emotional and existential significance of consciousness. It is both a source of profound insight and an agent of fragility, capable of illuminating the vastness of the cosmos while revealing the limitations of understanding. Cinematic sequences interweave intimate human moments. Children discovering the world, lovers sharing quiet understanding, individuals contemplating mortality, with sweeping cosmic imagery, reinforcing the scale and significance of conscious experience. The contrast between the minute and the vast, the familiar and the extraordinary, ensures viewers are emotionally engaged while intellectually stimulated. By the end of this section, audiences are primed to confront the intersections of consciousness, memory, time, and reality itself, carrying forward a deep sense of awe, curiosity, and anticipation for the mysteries yet to unfold. Memory is the silent architect of human reality, shaping not only how we perceive the past but also how we experience the present and anticipate the future. It is through memory that identity, culture, and personal narrative are constructed, yet memory itself is far from fixed or infallible. In this section, the documentary plunges into the astonishing complexity of human memory, exploring how it forms, distorts, and even creates reality. Cinematic sequences interweave intimate human moments, faces reflecting joy or sorrow, hands touching objects imbued with significance, with abstract visualizations of neural networks firing, synapses connecting, and memories weaving together in dynamic, shifting patterns. The contrast between vivid personal experience and the invisible, fluid architecture of the mind evokes awe, tension, and curiosity, drawing viewers into the delicate interplay between mind and reality. The section opens by examining the neurological basis of memory. Memories are not stored like photographs but are reconstructed each time they are recalled, influenced by context, emotion, and expectation. Cinematic sequences illustrate this reconstruction. A person remembers a childhood home, but as the scene unfolds, walls shift, objects fade or appear anew, and colors subtly change. Neural visualizations, glowing synapses firing, networks of neurons activating, intertwine with these experiences, showing the dynamic, living nature of memory. The narrative emphasizes that what we take as accurate recollection is in fact a creative process, shaping reality as much as reflecting it. Emotional memory plays a central role in human experience. Strong emotions, fear, joy, grief, awe, amplify the retention and vividness of memories, sometimes at the cost of accuracy. Cinematic sequences dramatize this. A wedding, a sudden accident, or a profound personal revelation is replayed repeatedly, each time with subtle variations in detail and emphasis. The audience is invited to feel the intensity of these recollections, experiencing firsthand how memory is inseparable from the emotional life of consciousness. The documentary underscores that memory is both a gift and a trap. It enriches experience while introducing the possibility of distortion and error. Memory distortion and false recollection reveal the fragility of human understanding. Psychological experiments demonstrate that individuals can vividly recall events that never occurred or misattribute details to the wrong context. Cinematic sequences bring this to life, conversations remembered differently by each participant, objects appearing or disappearing upon recall, and entire scenes subtly shifting in light, perspective, or detail. The audience experiences a tension between certainty and uncertainty, mirroring the emotional and cognitive disorientation that accompanies these phenomena. Contrast framing, between perceived reality and reconstructed memory, keeps viewers intellectually and emotionally engaged. Collective memory further complicates perception of reality. Societies, cultures, and communities rely on shared narratives that often blend fact, interpretation, and myth. Cinematic storytelling depicts historical reenactments, archival footage, and cultural rituals, illustrating how groups reconstruct the past. Discrepancies, embellishments, and reinterpretations highlight that even shared memory is mutable and influenced by collective belief. The audience is prompted to consider how history itself is a living, evolving narrative, shaped as much by perception and emotion as by objective events. This exploration deepens both curiosity and philosophical engagement. The intersection of memory and consciousness introduces profound implications. Consciousness not only records and interprets memory but actively shapes it, integrating past experiences into a coherent sense of self. Cinematic sequences depict a character reflecting on personal history. Flashes of memory overlap, fade, and recombine, creating a fluid montage of identity. These visualizations evoke wonder and introspection, illustrating that memory is not a passive archive but an active, ongoing construction of reality. By highlighting this dynamic interplay, the documentary emphasizes the deeply personal stakes of memory and its central role in defining who we are. Neurological disorders, trauma, and age-related changes provide further insight into memory's role in shaping perception. Alzheimer's disease, amnesia, and post-traumatic stress disorder illustrate how disruptions in memory can profoundly alter reality. Cinematic sequences dramatize these experiences, Familiar faces become unrecognizable, past events blur with present perception, and moments of clarity alternate with confusion. These portrayals evoke empathy and emotional tension, highlighting both the fragility and resilience of human cognition. The contrast between ordinary memory and its disruption underscores the extraordinary complexity of the mind and its role in constructing reality. Finally, the section examines memory's philosophical and existential significance. If memory shapes reality, then our experience of life is always a reconstruction, colored by emotion, interpretation, and imagination. Cinematic sequences interweave intimate human moments with abstract neural visualizations. A child recalling a lost pet, a scholar revisiting ancient texts, neurons firing in patterns that mirror narrative arcs. The audience is invited to reflect on the fluidity of identity, the malleability of experience, and the profound mystery of existence itself. By the end of this section, viewers are deeply engaged with the intricate relationship between memory, perception, and reality, emotionally invested and intellectually primed to explore the next stages of consciousness, time, and the unfolding of fractured realities. Dreams are the mysterious theater of the mind, a realm where reality bends, logic dissolves, and imagination reigns supreme. In sleep, the boundaries between perception, memory, and consciousness blur, allowing experiences to unfold that challenge our understanding of reality itself. In this section, the documentary immerses viewers in the enigmatic world of dreams, exploring how they reflect, distort, and even expand the nature of existence. Cinematic sequences transport audiences into surreal landscapes, cities folding upon themselves, skies shimmering with impossible colors, and familiar faces morphing into unexpected forms. These visualizations evoke awe, curiosity, and unease, highlighting the tension between the mind's creative power and the limits of waking comprehension. The section opens by examining the science of dreaming. During rapid eye movement (REM) sleep, the brain is highly active, yet disconnected from sensory input. Neural imaging reveals bursts of electrical activity, synaptic firing, and fluctuating patterns of connectivity, all contributing to the vivid, immersive experiences of dreams. Cinematic sequences visualize these neural processes. Glowing networks of neurons pulse like constellations, abstract shapes twist and unfold, and dreamscapes emerge from the interaction of memory, emotion, and imagination. The narrative emphasizes that dreams are not random. They are constructed experiences that reflect cognitive processes, emotional states, and unconscious desires, offering a window into the inner workings of the mind. Dreams often defy conventional logic, creating paradoxical and surreal experiences that challenge the assumptions of reality. Cinematic storytelling illustrates this. A character walks through a door into a room that simultaneously exists and does not, landscapes stretch and fold impossibly, and time flows backward or in fragmented sequences. These sequences evoke both wonder and subtle fear, demonstrating that the mind is capable of constructing alternate realities internally, experiences that can feel as real and emotionally charged as waking life. Contrast between ordinary perception and dream logic deepens viewer engagement and heightens the sense of mystery. Memory plays a central role in dreams. The brain integrates fragments of past experiences, emotions, and knowledge into dream narratives. Cinematic sequences depict this integration. A childhood memory blends with a recent conversation, landscapes shift between familiar and strange, and characters morph based on emotional resonance. This creative reconstruction highlights the fluidity of perception, illustrating that reality itself may be an ongoing synthesis of memory, imagination, and consciousness. Viewers are invited to consider that dreams provide insights not only into the subconscious mind but also into the nature of how we construct waking reality. Lucid dreaming further expands the narrative, revealing the mind's capacity to become aware within the dream state. Dreamers who recognize their own dreaming can manipulate the environment, explore fantastical worlds, and even confront fears or desires in ways impossible during wakefulness. Cinematic sequences dramatize this experience. A dreamer flies over impossible landscapes, transforms objects with thought, and encounters alternate versions of themselves. The contrast between passive dreaming and active lucid awareness underscores the mind's creative potential and the fluid boundaries between internal and external reality. Dreams also carry emotional and psychological significance. Recurring dreams, nightmares, and vivid visions often reflect unresolved conflicts, deep fears, or latent desires. Cinematic storytelling brings these experiences to life. Shadowy figures evoke tension and dread, luminous landscapes embody hope and transcendence, and moments of clarity illuminate the dreamer's inner world. By connecting emotion with surreal imagery, the documentary allows viewers to feel the impact of dreams on human experience, highlighting their role in shaping identity, perception, and even creativity. The section explores cross-cultural interpretations of dreams, emphasizing their universality and enduring fascination. From ancient civilizations to contemporary psychology, dreams have been regarded as portals to prophecy, spiritual insight, or alternative realities. Cinematic sequences blend historical reenactments with modern interpretations. Shamans interpret visions, scientists monitor neural activity during REM sleep, and ordinary individuals recount transformative dream experiences. This contrast between tradition and modernity illustrates that dreams have always been a bridge between the known and the unknown, a liminal space where human consciousness encounters the extraordinary. Finally, the narrative examines the philosophical implications of dreaming. If the mind can construct entire realities during sleep, what does that imply about waking experience? Cinematic sequences juxtapose dreamscapes with everyday life. A city street mirrors a dream's distorted geometry, a reflection in a mirror hints at alternate selves, and fleeting images from sleep linger in conscious thought. The audience is invited to reflect on the fluidity of reality, the power of imagination, and the profound mysteries of consciousness. By the end of this section, viewers are emotionally and intellectually engaged, ready to explore the further intersections of perception, consciousness, and the unfolding fractures of reality. Perception is the lens through which humans experience reality, yet it is a lens that is inherently limited, selective, and malleable. What we perceive as solid, stable, and objective is in fact a complex construction of the mind, shaped by sensory input, attention, memory, expectation, and emotion. In this section, the documentary delves deeply into the science and philosophy of perception, revealing how our experience of the world is simultaneously real and profoundly interpretive. Cinematic sequences immerse viewers in the wonder and fragility of perception. Streets transform as the mind interprets motion and light, colors shimmer and shift, and objects subtly distort under scrutiny. This visual and narrative approach evokes awe, curiosity, and unease, underscoring the central tension between appearance and reality. The section opens by exploring the neurological mechanisms underlying perception. The brain continuously receives sensory signals: light striking the retina, vibrations stimulating the ear, chemical cues activating olfactory and gustatory receptors, tactile stimuli across the skin. Neural pathways process, filter, and integrate this input, producing coherent, actionable experience. Cinematic sequences visualize this process. Streams of light and color enter the brain, neurons fire in complex patterns, and data coalesce into recognizable shapes and scenes. The narrative emphasizes that perception is not a passive reflection of reality but an active construction, inviting viewers to reconsider the apparent solidity of the world around them. Attention and selective processing play a pivotal role in shaping perception. The brain filters immense streams of sensory information, highlighting what is deemed relevant and suppressing what is extraneous. Cinematic sequences illustrate this. A pedestrian navigates a bustling street, focusing on a single conversation while peripheral movement blurs and fades. A musician hears a subtle discord among layers of sound that others miss. The contrast between focused attention and peripheral awareness demonstrates that perception is an act of curation, a delicate balance between clarity and omission. Viewers are encouraged to recognize how much of reality is filtered and reconstructed, heightening engagement and curiosity. Perceptual illusions provide vivid evidence of the mind's constructive role. Visual, auditory, and tactile illusions reveal that what is perceived is not always what exists. Cinematic storytelling dramatizes these phenomena. A floor tilts impossibly, shadows suggest motion that is not there, voices seem to come from empty space. The audience experiences a tension between expectation and perception, evoking wonder and subtle disorientation. By highlighting these contradictions, the documentary emphasizes that human perception, while adaptive and sophisticated, is fallible and subject to interpretation. The interplay between perception and memory further complicates experience. Past experiences shape how current stimuli are interpreted, often unconsciously. Cinematic sequences depict this dynamic. A character recognizes a face, but memory colors the interpretation with emotion or expectation. A familiar landscape evokes nostalgia, altering perceived color, scale, or detail. This integration of memory and perception reinforces the fluidity of experience, suggesting that reality as experienced is inseparable from the mind's interpretive processes. Contrast framing, between external reality and subjective reconstruction, intensifies both intellectual and emotional engagement. Perception is also influenced by expectation and context. The brain constantly predicts outcomes based on prior knowledge, adjusting interpretation to match expectations. Cinematic sequences illustrate this. A figure reaches for a doorknob that appears slightly altered due to lighting or angle, a sound is misattributed to a moving object that is still, and subtle cues guide attention toward anticipated events. These examples demonstrate that perception is not merely reactive but anticipatory, further blurring the line between objective reality and subjective experience. Cross-modal perception highlights the interconnectedness of the senses. The integration of vision, hearing, touch, taste, and smell creates a cohesive experience, yet anomalies in one modality can dramatically alter perception. Cinematic storytelling visualizes this. A room's colors shift when accompanied by unexpected sounds, textures feel exaggerated or diminished based on scent, and motion perception is influenced by auditory rhythm. These examples underscore the intricate, dynamic nature of perception and its susceptibility to interference, enhancing viewer appreciation for the complexity of sensory experience. Finally, the section explores philosophical and existential implications. If perception constructs reality, then the world as experienced is inseparable from the observer, and certainty is always provisional. Cinematic sequences juxtapose ordinary scenes, a bustling marketplace, a quiet forest, with abstract, shifting visuals representing perceptual reconstruction. Colors dissolve, forms ripple, and perspectives rotate. The audience is invited to question the nature of what is truly real, reflecting on the fragility and creativity inherent in perception. By the end of this section, viewers are intellectually and emotionally engaged, primed to explore the intersections of perception, consciousness, and the fractured, multilayered nature of reality itself. Reality, as humans perceive it, appears coherent, stable, and continuous, yet closer examination reveals it to be fragmented, layered, and astonishingly complex. In this section, the documentary explores the phenomenon of reality as a constructed, multifaceted experience, shaped not only by the external universe but by perception, memory, consciousness, and interpretation. Cinematic sequences shift between vast cosmic vistas, microscopic neural networks, and intimate human moments, creating a visual tapestry that mirrors the layered nature of existence. The interplay between clarity and ambiguity, certainty and doubt, forms the emotional and intellectual core of the narrative, evoking awe, curiosity, and a subtle sense of disorientation. The section begins by examining the cognitive construction of reality. The brain integrates sensory input, memory, and expectation to produce a coherent model of the world. Cinematic sequences illustrate this process. Light streams through a window and refracts into neural activity, a bustling city street is perceived as orderly despite underlying chaos, and patterns of motion and color coalesce into recognizable forms. The narrative emphasizes that reality is not simply out there, but is actively created by the mind, inviting viewers to reconsider the solidity and objectivity of their own experience. Memory and perception are central to this construction. Memories color present experience, while perception filters, interprets, and sometimes distorts sensory input. Cinematic storytelling brings these dynamics to life. A character walks through a familiar street, yet details shift subtly based on prior experience. A melody evokes an emotional memory that transforms the perception of a room. Faces and objects fluctuate as recollection and attention interact. This interplay demonstrates that reality is not fixed but fluid, a synthesis of external stimuli and internal interpretation. Contrast framing between objective observation and subjective experience heightens both intellectual engagement and emotional resonance. The section explores the role of consciousness in shaping reality. Conscious awareness is the lens through which the integrated world of perception and memory becomes experienced. Cinematic sequences depict neural activity as vast, glowing networks, interweaving with scenes of human cognition. Moments of insight, reflection, and creative thought unfold in tandem with visualized neural patterns. The narrative emphasizes that consciousness is both the medium and the arbiter of reality, capable of constructing coherent experience while simultaneously revealing its own limitations and ambiguities. Quantum phenomena provide a striking parallel to this cognitive construction. The indeterminacy, superposition, and entanglement observed at the microscopic level suggest that reality itself may be probabilistic and context-dependent. Cinematic sequences visualize these principles. Particles flicker between states, light curves and splits, and vast networks of entangled entities interact across distance. By juxtaposing the tangible human experience with the strangeness of quantum mechanics, the documentary evokes wonder, intellectual curiosity, and a profound sense of the universe's layered complexity. Alternate realities and parallel possibilities further illustrate the fragmented nature of existence. Decisions, chance events, and branching possibilities create countless potential outcomes, each as real in its own domain as the one we inhabit. Cinematic storytelling brings this to life. Streets and rooms multiply into overlapping versions, characters encounter alternate selves, and moments unfold simultaneously in divergent paths. These sequences evoke awe and existential tension, highlighting the multiplicity inherent in both external reality and subjective experience. Perceptual anomalies and altered states of consciousness underscore the fragility of experience. Hallucinations, lucid dreaming, and neurological variations reveal that the mind can produce entire realities internally, indistinguishable at times from the external world. Cinematic sequences dramatize this. Environments shift subtly or dramatically, familiar objects transform, and sensory input is reinterpreted in unexpected ways. The audience is invited to confront the idea that what feels real may be contingent, provisional, and deeply entwined with the observer. Finally, the section examines the philosophical and emotional implications of a fractured, constructed reality. Cinematic sequences weave together cosmic phenomena, neural activity, and human experience. Galaxies rotate across the sky while neurons spark in patterns that mirror thought. A child's play transforms into abstract visualization of cognitive construction, and moments of memory blend with perception to form shifting landscapes. The audience is left with a profound sense of wonder, curiosity, and introspection, primed to explore the further unraveling of reality, consciousness, and the boundaries between perception, time, and existence itself. The universe breathes in silence. Every atom hums with quiet intelligence. Every vibration carries the memory of creation. In that silence, there is no distinction between thought and matter, between dream and fact. Everything is a pattern, oscillating, entangled, aware. The documentary's visual language shifts now into slow, meditative rhythm. A montage of galaxies rotating like clockwork, neurons lighting within the human brain, and ocean tides folding back into themselves. The same pulse connects them all, the same rhythm that lives inside every beating heart. The narrator speaks softly, his words a gentle current. We exist in a continuum of awareness, where the smallest wave and the grandest galaxy are made of the same luminous fabric. Consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. The music begins as a faint drone of strings, building gradually toward a celestial crescendo, as if the cosmos itself were preparing to exhale truth. The scene cuts to a scientist staring through a quantum computer interface, lines of light twisting into incomprehensible fractals. Her eyes reflect the data streams like constellations. She whispers, "It's like it's aware of me." The camera lingers, a moment of quiet disbelief, a subtle awe that something beyond human logic is looking back. The narrator continues, "Perhaps what we call discovery is not learning something new, but remembering what consciousness already knew before it became us." Images begin to layer, sacred geometry rotating over particle accelerators, ancient mandalas overlaying blueprints of spacetime, monks meditating beneath holographic projections of the universe. The boundaries between science, spirituality, and art dissolve completely. Different languages, the voice says, for the same experience, the realization that everything we observe is the mirror of awareness trying to know itself. A surge of emotion builds as the visuals take the viewer through human history, firelight reflecting in the eyes of early humans gazing at the stars, Galileo lifting his telescope, Einstein scribbling equations that bent the idea of time itself. Generations of seekers, each trying to catch a glimpse of the infinite through the keyhole of their age. From the first question to the final theory, the narration continues, humanity has always reached beyond its own reflection, searching for the place where thought meets reality. And each time we look deeper we find the same thing staring back, the mystery that thinks. The pacing slows. A quiet reflection unfolds. A child stands on a beach, watching waves dissolve into foam. The camera pulls back, revealing the child's shadow extending endlessly across the sand. "We are fragments of awareness pretending to be small," the narrator says gently, each one a lens through which the cosmos experiences itself as human. The ocean reflects the sky, and for a moment the two are indistinguishable. Above, the Milky Way bends across the night, its billions of stars shimmering like neural sparks across the skull of creation. A delicate tension rises. If consciousness shapes reality, the narrator asks, then what responsibility do we bear for the worlds we imagine? The film's tone deepens, contemplative, almost somber. Every thought is a seed cast into the quantum field. Fear breeds division. Wonder breeds creation. The universe listens, not to words but to vibration. The imagery becomes symbolic, a single raindrop falling into still water, expanding into concentric ripples that merge with infinite others. This is how realities are born, the voice whispers. From within. The documentary now shifts to the metaphysical edge, where science meets self-realization. Each of us, the narration says, lives at the intersection of countless possible realities. And with each act of awareness, each moment of compassion, curiosity, or love, we tilt the balance toward one world over another. The visuals merge human lives with cosmic imagery, a teacher's smile resonating like starlight, a musician's note echoing across nebulae, a hand reaching out to another, their touch creating ripples of light that spread into galaxies. Perhaps creation is not something that happened, the voice suggests, but something that keeps happening through us. Music swells again, the orchestra rising into a cascade of sound that feels both intimate and infinite. The screen fills with scenes of transformation, forests regrowing, children laughing, light emerging through darkness. The tempo quickens, then softens, carrying the viewer through emotional contrast, destruction and renewal, despair and beauty, entropy and harmony, as if showing the full spectrum of creation's heartbeat. The narrator continues, when reality split, it was not to divide but to explore. Each branch of existence is a path through which consciousness learns another aspect of itself. The courage to love, the fear of loss, the joy of discovery, the silence of stillness. Gradually the music fades to a single sustained note, pure, unbroken. A wide shot of Earth fills the screen. From space it looks fragile, radiant, alive. The auroras shimmer like the synapses of a planetary brain. The voice grows quiet, intimate once more. All of it, every possibility, every universe, arises from the same awareness. The same presence that watches these words, that breathes through you now. There is no outside. There is only within. The rhythm slows to almost stillness. A final image appears, the same light from the beginning of the documentary flickering in the dark. But this time it is not alone. Countless other lights appear beside it, forming a vast web of luminous consciousness stretching endlessly into the void. The camera zooms in on one, a single point of awareness pulsing softly. The narrator whispers the final words of the section. The moment reality split was the moment consciousness began to dream itself awake. And that dream is you. The music fades into silence. For several seconds nothing moves. Then a faint sound, the slow inhale of breath, as if the universe itself were preparing to continue its story. The universe breathes in silence. Every atom hums with quiet intelligence. Every vibration carries the memory of creation. In that silence, there is no distinction between thought and matter, between dream and fact. Everything is a pattern, oscillating, entangled, aware. The documentary's visual language shifts now into slow, meditative rhythm. A montage of galaxies rotating like clockwork, neurons lighting within the human brain, and ocean tides folding back into themselves. The same pulse connects them all, the same rhythm that lives inside every beating heart. The narrator speaks softly, his words a gentle current. We exist in a continuum of awareness, where the smallest wave and the grandest galaxy are made of the same luminous fabric. Consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. The music begins as a faint drone of strings, building gradually toward a celestial crescendo, as if the cosmos itself were preparing to exhale truth. The scene cuts to a scientist staring through a quantum computer interface, lines of light twisting into incomprehensible fractals. Her eyes reflect the data streams like constellations. She whispers, "It's like it's aware of me." The camera lingers, a moment of quiet disbelief, a subtle awe that something beyond human logic is looking back. The narrator continues, "Perhaps what we call discovery is not learning something new, but remembering what consciousness already knew before it became us." Images begin to layer, sacred geometry rotating over particle accelerators, ancient mandalas overlaying blueprints of spacetime, monks meditating beneath holographic projections of the universe. The boundaries between science, spirituality, and art dissolve completely. Different languages, the voice says, for the same experience, the realization that everything we observe is the mirror of awareness trying to know itself. A surge of emotion builds as the visuals take the viewer through human history, firelight reflecting in the eyes of early humans gazing at the stars, Galileo lifting his telescope, Einstein scribbling equations that bent the idea of time itself. Generations of seekers, each trying to catch a glimpse of the infinite through the keyhole of their age. From the first question to the final theory, the narration continues, humanity has always reached beyond its own reflection, searching for the place where thought meets reality. And each time we look deeper we find the same thing staring back, the mystery that thinks. The pacing slows. A quiet reflection unfolds. A child stands on a beach watching waves dissolve into foam. The camera pulls back, revealing the child's shadow extending endlessly across the sand. We are fragments of awareness pretending to be small, the narrator says gently, each one a lens through which the cosmos experiences itself as human. The ocean reflects the sky, and for a moment the two are indistinguishable. Above, the Milky Way bends across the night, its billions of stars shimmering like neural sparks across the skull of creation. A delicate tension rises. If consciousness shapes reality, the narrator asks, then what responsibility do we bear for the worlds we imagine? The film's tone deepens, contemplative, almost somber. Every thought is a seed cast into the quantum field. Fear breeds division. Wonder breeds creation. The universe listens, not to words but to vibration. The imagery becomes symbolic, a single raindrop falling into still water, expanding into concentric ripples that merge with infinite others. This is how realities are born, the voice whispers. From within. The documentary now shifts to the metaphysical edge, where science meets self-realization. Each of us, the narration says, lives at the intersection of countless possible realities. And with each act of awareness, each moment of compassion, curiosity, or love, we tilt the balance toward one world over another. The visuals merge human lives with cosmic imagery, a teacher's smile resonating like starlight, a musician's note echoing across nebulae, a hand reaching out to another, their touch creating ripples of light that spread into galaxies. Perhaps creation is not something that happened, the voice suggests, but something that keeps happening through us. Music swells again, the orchestra rising into a cascade of sound that feels both intimate and infinite. The screen fills with scenes of transformation, forests regrowing, children laughing, light emerging through darkness. The tempo quickens, then softens, carrying the viewer through emotional contrast, destruction and renewal, despair and beauty, entropy and harmony, as if showing the full spectrum of creation's heartbeat. The narrator continues, when reality split, it was not to divide but to explore. Each branch of existence is a path through which consciousness learns another aspect of itself. The courage to love, the fear of loss, the joy of discovery, the silence of stillness. Gradually the music fades to a single sustained note, pure, unbroken. A wide shot of Earth fills the screen. From space it looks fragile, radiant, alive. The auroras shimmer like the synapses of a planetary brain. The voice grows quiet, intimate once more. All of it, every possibility, every universe, arises from the same awareness. The same presence that watches these words, that breathes through you now. There is no outside. There is only within. The rhythm slows to almost stillness. A final image appears, the same light from the beginning of the documentary flickering in the dark. But this time it is not alone. Countless other lights appear beside it, forming a vast web of luminous consciousness stretching endlessly into the void. The camera zooms in on one, a single point of awareness pulsing softly. The narrator whispers the final words of the section. The moment reality split was the moment consciousness began to dream itself awake. And that dream is you. The music fades into silence. For several seconds nothing moves. Then a faint sound, the slow inhale of breath, as if the universe itself were preparing to continue its story. The human experience is defined not only by the tangible world we inhabit but by the unseen, intangible layers that shape perception, thought, and emotion. In this section, the documentary delves into the interplay between the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the hidden mechanisms that influence reality as we perceive it. It explores how thought patterns, beliefs, memories, and deep-seated instincts interact to construct a world that is both familiar and mysteriously fluid. Cinematic sequences weave together intimate human moments, abstract neural imagery, and surreal landscapes, creating a vivid representation of the mind's inner workings and their impact on the external environment. This section emphasizes the hidden architecture of reality, revealing how much of what we take for granted is filtered, colored, and shaped by internal processes. The narrative begins by exploring the subconscious mind, the vast reservoir of thoughts, memories and impulses that operate below conscious awareness. Neural activity is visualized as a dynamic network of glowing pathways, pulsing and interconnecting in patterns that reflect both order and complexity. Cinematic sequences portray a character walking through a cityscape that subtly shifts and transforms as subconscious influences guide perception. Familiar streets twist, shadows elongate, and sounds resonate with unrecognized emotion. These sequences illustrate that the mind is not a passive observer but an active creator of reality, often guided by forces that lie beneath the surface of awareness. Belief systems and mental frameworks significantly shape perception. From cultural conditioning to personal values, the mind interprets sensory input through the lens of expectation and prior experience. Cinematic storytelling dramatizes this. A courtroom scene unfolds differently depending on a character's assumptions, a conversation shifts meaning based on subconscious biases, and environmental details are perceived in ways that align with deeply held beliefs. The contrast between objective reality and filtered interpretation emphasizes the degree to which the mind constructs experience, evoking both intellectual curiosity and emotional engagement. Memory's influence on perception extends beyond conscious recall. Implicit memory, the subtle accumulation of experience, shapes reactions, instincts, and intuitive responses. Cinematic sequences illustrate this. A person reacts to a situation before consciously processing it, recognizing danger or opportunity based on faint echoes of prior experience, while neural pathways light up in cascading sequences. The narrative highlights that memory is not merely a record of the past but an active component of ongoing reality construction, continuously informing decisions, emotions, and perception. Emotional processing further mediates the experience of reality. Fear, desire, joy, and sorrow act as amplifiers or filters, enhancing certain elements of perception while suppressing others. Cinematic sequences portray a character moving through a familiar environment, yet emotional shifts transform the scene. A neutral hallway becomes ominous under anxiety, a sunset becomes transcendent under awe, and interpersonal interactions are interpreted differently under stress or excitement. This integration of emotion into perception underscores the profound ways internal states shape the external world, creating experiences that are simultaneously real and uniquely personal. The section also examines cognitive biases and mental shortcuts that shape reality. Heuristics, pattern recognition, and selective attention guide perception and decision-making but can introduce distortions. Cinematic storytelling brings these mechanisms to life. A fleeting shadow is interpreted as a threat, patterns are seen in randomness, and confirmation bias colors interpretation of events. These sequences evoke tension and engagement, illustrating that human perception is both adaptive and fallible, a product of survival-oriented mental architecture that constructs reality according to internal logic. Subconscious influences extend to creativity and imagination, where the mind constructs experiences that transcend ordinary reality. Dreams, daydreams, and intuitive insights demonstrate the mind's ability to explore alternative possibilities, generate novel ideas, and reshape perception. Cinematic sequences immerse the audience in these realms. Landscapes fold in impossible geometries, ideas crystallize as glowing forms, and moments of insight appear as bursts of radiant neural energy. The contrast between conscious control and subconscious creativity emphasizes the mind's power to expand perception beyond conventional limits, evoking awe and intellectual engagement. Finally, the section synthesizes these insights, emphasizing that reality is not a static or external entity but a dynamic construct continually shaped by internal processes. Cinematic sequences blend neural imagery, surreal landscapes, and human experience. Networks of neurons pulse in synchrony with environmental shifts, reflections fragment and recombine in dreamlike patterns, and emotional states ripple through perception like waves across water. The audience is left with a profound understanding of the mind's role in shaping existence, emotionally engaged and intellectually primed to explore the subsequent layers of consciousness, memory, and the fractured, multifaceted nature of reality itself. Identity, the sense of self that defines who we are, is both a stabilizing force and a profound mystery. It emerges from the complex interplay of consciousness, memory, perception, and social interaction, yet it is far from fixed or absolute. In this section, the documentary delves into the nature of identity, exploring how the mind constructs, maintains, and sometimes fractures the self, revealing the fragility and fluidity of human existence. Cinematic sequences interweave intimate portraits of individuals with abstract neural and cognitive imagery, creating a visual representation of the layers that constitute personal reality. The contrast between continuity and disruption, stability and transformation, evokes both emotional resonance and intellectual curiosity, drawing viewers into the profound question: who are we and what shapes the self? The narrative begins by examining the neurological underpinnings of identity. Brain networks responsible for self-referential thought, memory integration, and emotional regulation work in concert to create a coherent sense of self. Cinematic sequences visualize this as glowing, interconnected neural pathways that mirror the flow of thought, decision-making, and introspection. A character may be shown reflecting on past experiences, with memories interweaving and reshaping the present moment, highlighting that identity is not a static entity but a dynamic, ongoing construction. The audience is invited to witness the interplay between biology and experience informing the self, fostering awe and introspection. Memory is central to the continuity of identity. Autobiographical memory allows individuals to maintain a coherent narrative across time, integrating past experiences with present awareness and future anticipation. Cinematic storytelling brings this to life. A person revisits childhood spaces, and scenes shift subtly with the lens of memory, altering colors, spatial dimensions, and emotional tone. These visualizations emphasize that the self is inseparable from recollection, yet the malleability of memory also introduces vulnerability. By juxtaposing certainty with subtle distortions, the narrative evokes curiosity, empathy, and reflection on the nature of personal reality. Perception and consciousness further shape identity. The way individuals perceive themselves and the world around them informs behavior, emotional responses, and self-concept. Cinematic sequences depict moments of introspection, social interaction, and self-recognition. A mirror reflects multiple overlapping images of the same person, subtle shifts in expression reveal inner thoughts, and the surrounding environment subtly changes with emotional state. This visual language illustrates that identity is not merely internal but emerges in dynamic relation to the external world, inviting viewers to consider the fluid boundary between self and environment. Altered states of consciousness reveal the fragility and adaptability of identity. Dreams, meditation, dissociation, and neuropsychological phenomena such as depersonalization offer glimpses into alternative constructions of the self. Cinematic sequences immerse viewers in these states. A character experiences a sense of floating outside their body, multiple selves appear simultaneously, and environments twist to reflect shifting internal perspectives. These experiences evoke awe, curiosity, and subtle unease, highlighting the mind's capacity to construct multiple realities and the inherent malleability of identity. Social and cultural factors play a pivotal role in shaping the self. Identity is influenced not only by internal processes but by interaction with others, societal norms, and cultural narratives. Cinematic storytelling illustrates this. A person navigates complex social dynamics, reflecting the ways recognition, expectation, and communal memory shape behavior and self-perception. The contrast between individual consciousness and collective influence reinforces the theme that identity is both personal and relational, stable yet constantly negotiated. Psychological and neurological disorders provide further insight into the construction of self. Conditions such as dissociative identity disorder, amnesia, and frontotemporal dementia reveal how identity can fragment, shift, or dissolve when underlying neural or cognitive mechanisms are disrupted. Cinematic sequences dramatize these phenomena. A person's reflection fractures into multiple images, memories fade and reconfigure, and interactions with others reveal inconsistencies in self-perception. These portrayals evoke empathy, wonder, and philosophical reflection on the fragile architecture of identity. Finally, the section explores the philosophical and existential implications of selfhood. If identity is constructed, fluid, and relational, then the self is both a profound source of meaning and a site of vulnerability. Cinematic sequences weave together neural imagery, personal memory, and social interaction. Synapses spark in patterns that mirror narrative arcs of self, reflections fragment and recombine in shifting spaces, and fleeting moments of insight illuminate the mind's creative power. The audience is left with a deep understanding of the complex, multifaceted nature of identity, emotionally engaged and intellectually stimulated, prepared to explore the subsequent intersections of self, consciousness, and the fragmented realities that define human experience. The universe as we perceive it is not a simple, continuous whole, but a complex, layered, and often paradoxical reality that challenges human comprehension. In this section, the documentary explores the cosmic scale of fractured realities, examining how time, space, consciousness, and identity intertwine to create a universe that is both awe-inspiring and enigmatic. Cinematic sequences shift between vast cosmic panoramas, microscopic neural landscapes, and intimate human experiences, illustrating the interplay between the infinite and the personal, the external and the internal. Through this exploration, viewers are invited to confront the profound mystery of existence and the delicate balance between what is known and what remains beyond comprehension. The narrative begins by examining the fundamental structure of the universe. From the smallest subatomic particles to the vast stretches of intergalactic space, reality is governed by principles that are simultaneously precise and paradoxical. Cinematic sequences visualize this spectrum. Quarks and photons flicker in dynamic patterns, stars and galaxies swirl in vast cosmic dances, and black holes distort the fabric of spacetime. The contrast between the minute and the immense evokes awe, underscoring the incomprehensible scale and complexity of existence, while establishing a foundation for understanding the universe as a layered and multifaceted reality. Time and space emerge as central themes in the construction of cosmic reality. Einstein's theory of relativity reveals that time is not fixed but malleable, bending under the influence of gravity and velocity. Cinematic storytelling brings this to life. A spacecraft approaches a black hole, time stretches and contracts, and twin observers experience decades and seconds differently. On the human scale, moments of perception, memory, and consciousness are similarly fluid, creating a parallel between cosmic and personal temporal experience. The narrative emphasizes that the fabric of reality is not uniform but intricately woven with layers that defy linear comprehension. Quantum mechanics further illuminates the fractured nature of the universe. At the subatomic level, particles exist in states of probability, entangled across vast distances and affected by observation itself. Cinematic sequences depict these principles. Particles flicker between existence and non-existence, entangled pairs mirror each other across impossible spans, and waves collapse into discrete points when measured. This visual and conceptual language evokes intellectual curiosity and emotional awe, highlighting that reality is contingent, probabilistic, and fundamentally interconnected in ways that challenge intuitive understanding. Consciousness acts as both observer and participant in this cosmic drama. Human perception interprets, filters, and constructs reality, and moments of awareness are inseparable from the phenomena being observed. Cinematic sequences interweave neural imagery with cosmic vistas. Glowing networks of neurons pulse in sync with the rotation of galaxies, reflections of stars shimmer in the eyes of observers, and fleeting intuitive insights illuminate the mind's engagement with the universe. This interplay underscores that reality is not merely external but is co-constructed through consciousness, bridging the personal and the cosmic. Identity and perception at the human scale mirror the larger structures of the universe. Individuals experience reality through filtered senses, memory, and expectation, while simultaneously interacting with social and cultural frameworks that shape understanding. Cinematic sequences portray a person navigating layered cityscapes, reflections fragmenting across surfaces, and shifting perspectives illustrating the malleability of perception. The narrative emphasizes that the self and the universe are both structured yet fluid, connected through dynamic processes that shape experience, meaning, and understanding. Cosmic and human mysteries converge in the exploration of alternate realities and multiverses. Theoretical physics suggests that countless parallel worlds may coexist, each governed by different conditions and probabilities. Cinematic storytelling visualizes this multiplicity. Overlapping landscapes, parallel selves encountering variations of the same moments, and cosmic events replaying across divergent paths. These sequences evoke wonder, existential reflection, and intellectual engagement, reinforcing the documentary's central theme. Reality is layered, complex, and often beyond the grasp of linear perception. Finally, the section synthesizes these cosmic, neurological, and philosophical insights, revealing a universe that is simultaneously knowable and unknowable, vast and intimately connected, structured and fluid. Cinematic sequences blend cosmic vistas, neural activity, and human experience. Stars spiral in patterns that echo neural networks, reflections ripple and fragment across dreamlike spaces, and moments of introspection illuminate both personal and universal dimensions. The audience is left with a profound sense of awe, curiosity, and contemplation, emotionally and intellectually engaged, prepared to explore the ultimate implications of fractured reality, consciousness, and the infinite possibilities that define existence itself. As the documentary nears its conclusion, the story shifts from the vast cosmic landscape to the intimate heart of human existence. It is here, at the intersection of infinity and individuality, that the question arises. What does it mean to live in a universe where reality itself can split, fracture, and multiply? The section begins with a tone of quiet reflection, the chaos of previous revelations now settling into a contemplative stillness. Cinematic imagery transitions from swirling galaxies and quantum fluctuations to a single human face illuminated by the pale light of dawn, eyes filled with wonder and uncertainty. The soundscape softens, the hum of the cosmos fading into the gentle rhythm of breathing, signaling a shift from external discovery to inner realization. The narrative explores the emotional aftermath of understanding that reality is not fixed but fluid, not singular but infinite. For centuries, humanity sought certainty, the unshakable ground of truth, the final answers that would make sense of existence. Yet the deeper science and philosophy have delved, the more that foundation has dissolved into probabilities, paradoxes, and branching timelines. This realization does not lead to despair but to an awakening, the acknowledgement that uncertainty itself is the true essence of life. Cinematic storytelling portrays this transformation through visual metaphors, a figure walking through shifting corridors of light, reflections bending and merging, their shadows splitting into multiple forms before coming together again. At the center of this reflection lies the human mind, fragile yet magnificent, capable of perceiving both the chaos of the cosmos and the poetry hidden within it. Consciousness is revealed as the ultimate frontier, the one domain where the universe turns inward to observe itself. The narrative draws parallels between the firing of neurons and the birth of stars, between fleeting thoughts and quantum fluctuations. As these visual and philosophical parallels unfold, the audience feels the delicate balance between the microcosm and the macrocosm, the realization that every human mind is a mirror of the cosmos, carrying within it the same creative forces that shape galaxies. The tone then deepens into a moment of existential reflection. If reality can branch infinitely, if each choice spawns countless variations of the self across unobservable dimensions, then what meaning does this singular existence hold? The narration invites the audience to confront the weight of that question, not with fear but with reverence. Life, it suggests, is not diminished by its transience or its multiplicity, it is sanctified by them. The cinematic lens focuses on small, tender moments. A child's laughter, the sound of rain, the touch of a hand, the light shifting across a room. These fragments, ordinary yet profound, become symbols of grounding within an infinite web of possibility. They remind the viewer that even if the universe fractures endlessly, meaning is created in the moments we choose to live with presence and awareness. The section introduces a sequence where scientific and philosophical voices converge, theorists, mystics, and thinkers across ages, each offering their interpretation of what it means to exist in a fractured reality. Their words echo across time, forming a chorus of wonder. Plato's cave, the Buddha's illusion of self, Einstein's relativity, Heisenberg's uncertainty, Everett's many worlds. Each voice represents a layer of understanding, a facet of the same incomprehensible truth, that reality at its core resists final definition. The camera drifts through scenes of ancient libraries, digital data streams, and cosmic expanses, blending past, present, and future into one fluid continuum. This synthesis bridges millennia of human curiosity, portraying knowledge as an evolving organism that never stops questioning itself. Amid these reflections, a powerful realization emerges. The split in reality is not merely an external event but an internal one. Every decision, every perception, every belief splits the world we experience into what is and what could have been. In this sense, every human being carries the power of creation, constantly generating new versions of reality through choice and awareness. Cinematic imagery visualizes this through branching pathways of light emanating from the human form, each representing a possible life unfolding in parallel. The narration speaks softly, almost reverently, about the sacred responsibility of awareness. How to know that one's perception shapes the universe is both liberating and humbling. The section moves toward a climactic fusion of imagery and insight. Cosmic and human visuals merge. Galaxies spiral within the pupil of an eye, neurons fire in the pattern of constellations, and the boundaries between self and universe dissolve into luminous abstraction. The narrative tone crescendos with a sense of transcendence, not as escape but as understanding. It becomes clear that the split in reality is not an ending but an evolution, a natural consequence of consciousness striving to perceive itself more completely. The universe, in this vision, is a living story, and every being, every atom, every thought, is a word in that story. In the final minutes, the film returns to silence. The cosmic noise recedes, leaving the echo of a single heartbeat. A voice, calm and reflective, poses the final question. If every version of reality exists, then which one do we choose to live in? The answer, implied but never spoken, lies in awareness, that the moment we observe, we create, the moment we believe, we define, and the moment we love, we unify what was once divided. The camera fades out on the same human face from the beginning, now looking upward at the vast night sky. The stars shimmer, countless, distant, yet somehow familiar. The screen slowly darkens, leaving only the sound of breath, reminding the viewer that even in the endless fracturing of the cosmos, existence continues, aware of itself, infinite and alive. The screen fades from darkness to a vast, silent landscape, a horizon without end, bathed in the faint glow of a rising light. It is neither dawn nor dusk, neither past nor future. It is the space between moments, where reality itself seems to pause and breathe. The narrator's voice enters softly, almost a whisper carried by the wind. If the universe split, if time branched and every possible version of existence bloomed somewhere in the unseen, then what remains constant? The question hangs in the air like an echo from eternity. What endures when every law bends, when every truth fractures, when even the self dissolves into probability? The film slows its rhythm here, allowing silence and imagery to communicate what words cannot, that this is not an ending, but a return to the heart of mystery itself. As the visual narrative unfolds, cosmic and human imagery merge once again. The camera drifts through vast clusters of galaxies, their spirals forming the shapes of neurons and thought patterns. The stars pulse in rhythm with a distant heartbeat. Slowly, that heartbeat becomes identifiable, the heartbeat of a single human being standing at the edge of an ocean, staring into infinity. The tide washes in and out, each wave like a breath of the cosmos. It becomes clear that the journey, though presented as an exploration of fractured reality, has always been about this: the convergence of the infinite and the intimate, the universe and the observer. The split reality, once perceived as a division, now appears as a mirror, one reflecting back the consciousness that sought to understand it. The narration begins to weave a final synthesis of everything that has unfolded. The scientific revelations, relativity, quantum mechanics, multiverses, and the philosophical explorations of perception, identity, and meaning are drawn together into one unbroken thread. Reality, the film suggests, is not a fixed stage upon which existence unfolds but a living field of awareness. Every moment, every perception, is an act of creation, a dialogue between consciousness and the cosmos. When the universe split, it did not fracture into chaos, it expanded into possibility. What seemed like division was, in truth, evolution, the awakening of reality to its own infinite nature. Visually, this realization is portrayed through the gradual fusion of worlds. Deserts turn into oceans, stars into cells, the human form dissolving into light and re-emerging as constellations. The colors shift from cold blues and silvers to warm golds and reds, signifying not the collapse of reality but its transformation. The tone becomes almost spiritual but not religious. It speaks to the sacredness of existence itself, unbound by dogma or doctrine. The narrator's voice grows steadier, more resonant. We once believed we were small, fragments adrift in a vast and indifferent universe. But what if the universe itself is the reflection of our awareness, looking back through countless mirrors, seeking to remember its own origin? The story then enters its emotional crescendo, a sequence that intertwines moments of human life across time and space. A scientist scribbling equations by candlelight. A child gazing through a telescope. An astronaut drifting in orbit watching Earth rise. An old woman closing her eyes to recall a memory that feels older than her own life. These vignettes flow seamlessly together, suggesting that consciousness is a continuous stream, that every thought, every act of wonder contributes to the unfolding narrative of the cosmos. The split realities, once countless and separate, now merge into a single vision, a universe alive with awareness, complexity, and meaning. As the imagery intensifies, the film revisits the idea of contrast that has driven the narrative since the beginning: order and chaos, light and shadow, science and spirituality, fear and awe. The tension between them does not resolve through dominance but through harmony. The narrator observes, the split was never destruction. It was the universe breathing, expanding and contracting, learning to see itself through the eyes of countless beings. The visuals follow this sentiment. Galaxies inhale and exhale like living lungs. Light bends and folds in upon itself, creating intricate geometries that pulse with a heartbeat like rhythm. The music swells, orchestral yet organic, blending human voices, cosmic tones and natural sounds into one ascending wave of emotion. The film's pacing then slows, inviting the audience into a final moment of stillness. The narration softens, guiding the viewer toward introspection. Perhaps, the voice says, the ultimate question is not whether reality split, but whether we can learn to see the whole in every fragment. The camera pans slowly across a mirror-like surface of water, where countless reflections of stars ripple and merge. A single drop falls, creating expanding circles of light that merge into one continuous field. This visual becomes the central metaphor, that all divisions, whether in the universe or within the self, are illusions of perspective. Beneath them lies unity, a single, boundless awareness that has always been whole. As the light grows, a final image appears. The Earth, suspended in the black sea of space, fragile yet luminous. The narration continues with quiet reverence. Every choice we make, every thought we breathe into existence, sends ripples through eternity. We are not separate from the cosmos. We are the cosmos, experiencing itself, learning its own language, remembering its own face. The music fades to a soft hum, echoing the sound of the universe's background radiation, now woven with the rhythm of a human heartbeat. The sound becomes indistinguishable, the pulse of existence itself. In the closing sequence, the film returns to the same moment that began the entire story, the instant reality split. But now the meaning has changed. What was once depicted as a violent fracture is now shown as a blossoming, a luminous unfolding of countless petals of light, each one a universe, each one an experience, all arising from the same singular source. The camera zooms into one of these petals until it becomes the eye of the observer, the same eye from the beginning, blinking, breathing, alive. The final line is whispered, nearly inaudible, there was never a split. There was only awakening. The screen fades to black. Silence lingers for several seconds, a silence that feels alive, charged with meaning. Then, faintly, the hum returns, the cosmic resonance that began this journey. It is the sound of everything, galaxies, thoughts, dreams, vibrating as one. The credits begin to roll over a soft, endless horizon of light. The audience is left not with answers but with a feeling, the awareness that they too are part of this unfolding story. Reality as they now understand was never outside them. It has always been within.